Hey there, Cindy Daychek with Queen Bee Creations. I am here today with a quick little fun little kind of spring summer idea because it's cold in my studio and I'm dying for some warmth. So I'm sure I'll be taking those words back in the summertime when it's super hot in here because I don't have air conditioning. But it's a big space and the heat doesn't get here either. So I'm really hot in the summer and I'm really cold in the winter. But what we're gonna do is we're taking just our big basic clay pot and we're gonna decorate it. We're gonna spiff it up a little bit so it looks a little bit more fun. And I'm doing that with some molds from IOD. And in particular, I was really looking at wanting to use one of the new typography molds that they've come out with. Now they've come out with two. Harper, this is the one that we're using today, and Victoria. Both are lovely, and quite honestly, I stole this one because I'm having a hard time keeping them in stock. So if you go to the website queenbeecreationshome.com and you can pick up the clay and the molds there, know that if this one's out of stock or if the Victoria one is out of stock, that they are going to be restocked virtually immediately. I'm constantly reordering, so don't despair. But these molds are great because it allows you to be able to do some raised lettering on any of your decor projects. And what I wanted to do was do some lettering on my pot and then add some flowers to it for a bit of a change. Now, for this, because this is kind of narrow or a little bit more detailed, often I will recommend that when you're dealing with a really detailed mold to just take a dry paintbrush and add some cornstarch into the mold, which would just help with the release a little bit, okay? And that's what I have in this little container. So what I want to get started with is I wanted to put my letters on first and then build my flowers out around it. And we are going to paint the pot and do some waxing, but the air-dried clay, good if I lost that off the end of the table, it will dry overnight. And as much as you could paint it wet if you want to, I don't want to push the brush against it and lose any of the definition of the letters in particular. So I'm going to allow it to dry overnight and then do the painting tomorrow. And what I'm going to do is to spell out, all right, I was just looking at my letters going, your letters are backward when you're dealing with them, but they go in alphabetical order so that helps you figure out what letter you are looking for and what you need. So I am looking to spell out the word blooms across there. And apart from the O that repeats, which I will need to do twice, I'm sure you guys figured that one out, I should be able to do all the letters kind of all at once. But because this is a serif, which means it's got the little feet on the letters, PQR, here's my S. They're a little bit skinny in some spots, ooh, especially that S. So I do want to make sure that I have some of the cornstarch down to help with the release. These have the great micro rim, which is one of the reasons I particularly like the IOD molds. There's a lot of other brands of molds out there, but this is one of the things that really distinguishes these molds from others. Is it really helps you be able to push that clay against the edge and you get a nice crisp rim. And again, for any of you that have, you know, arthritis in the fingers or things like that, I find that the IOD paper clay, this clay is really soft and malleable. Now you want to make sure that you keep it sealed, so I always keep it in an airtight bag when I'm not using it so that it doesn't dry out. If it does start to feel a little bit stiff and a little bit drier, you can add just in your bag, put like a baby wipe in there and seal it up with that so that it kind of softens it up a little bit. It adds a little bit moisture back into it. It's kind of like the idea of if your brown sugar is getting a little bit too hard or stiff, put a slice of bread in there, and that helps soften it up too. And I don't know why I know that, but but I do. Okay, so I'm just going to be pushing this and making all my letters, and it really goes fast. S. I'm looking for my last one. And again, I'll still have to go back and do one more O once I'm finished with this. The S has got a little bit of skinny shape, so I'm interested to see how well these come out. Actually, you saw me open the bag, so obviously I have not used these molds yet, but with all of the molds, the easiest way to release them is to flip them over and to just kind of peel that back. I always like to take my little dusting brush and use it rather than my big finger to kind of tease the mold out. Look at that, that came out so nicely. My L. Okay, so guys, I gotta tell you, I'm loving how well these come out, how easily they come out, how crisp they look. Doesn't mean that I can't mush it. All right, I'm particularly interested to see how the S comes out, just because, where's the S? Here it is. It had the skinniest sections. And I was most worried about it not working right. But the S works fine. Okay, awesome. So I'm just gonna do one more O, and then really super easy for attaching because you can use any glue of your choice, really. I'm going to be using a wood glue. You could use a tight bond glue. You could use really kind of any glue of your choice, whatever seems to stick nice and firm for you and allow them to dry. Usually if I'm doing this, sticking them on a big piece of furniture where the furniture piece is going to be sitting upright, I will use some painter's tape to hold them in place, or I'll put the piece of furniture down flat just to make sure that they don't slide. Or you could use a particular quick drying glue. This glue dries within 10 minutes, so it's an express wood glue from the page, but I really like tight bond as well, so you're kind of set with just about anything. I'm just debating, I don't want to put it, I was debating putting it up on the rim, which you can see would fit. I'm thinking I'm going to put it just below the rim and spell it out. Now, I'm not going to have to measure this because I'm going to build the flowers up around it, so I can worry about my own spacing. So the only thing that you want to make sure is that when you go to do your glue, that you're actually gluing the back of them rather than the good side. So turn them all over at once so that you're not remembering which one is right side up, and then you can apply the glue and then stick them in place. I'm usually pretty generous with the glue, but you don't want to have so much on there that it's going to squish out all over the sides, because even though you're painting over it, you will kind of see that. So you want to have enough for it to adhere, but not big gobs of it. And I'm gonna stick them all because then when I go back and I start on my bee, it's already started to dry just enough that it prevents it perhaps from sliding. I'm just sort of dabbing it lightly in place. Now you can take a small paintbrush and paint it out to all of the edges to make sure that everything adheres well, if you would like. Okay, so starting with my bee, I'm just going to pop it down into place. Oops. A little bit too much glue on my bee. My L was just lovely, however. Okay, so the M's a little bit squishy. And a little more challenging to flip around. You could take a piece of chalk and have dried a line across there if you were particularly worried about getting it on straight. But there's my word blooms. I think I angled downward slightly on this. Let me just roughly raise them up a little bit while I can still slide them. Lovely. Okay, so I'm just going to set that off to the side while, and I'm leaving it so that it's up to prevent them from sliding downward. And I'm going to be adding a couple of flowers. And for this, I want to try another new mold. So, one that I haven't tried before, which is always fun for me. I just start taking them out of inventory. Sorry. And this is the He Loves Me mold. So it's got like the big daisies and some leaves, and I just think it'd be kind of fun in fitting in with this. It is now day 2. This has had a chance to dry overnight, so it's completely dry. Look how beautiful that is, how crisp and clean. And now it's just time to paint. I'm not going to be painting each of the different letters and flowers and leaves a different color. I'm going for one solid color and I'm gonna highlight them with using some wax. So this process is pretty straightforward and simple. I'm just going to be putting on my paint and painting the pot. Now, I've selected DIY Cowgirl Coral. DIY is a clay-based paint available on my website if you wanted, queenbeecreationshome.com, but you can also go to their page to look for a distributor in your area. Now, I want to make sure that I get down into and around all those little letters. So I'm using a fairly soft brush to be able to do that. And I'm just moving the paint around to be able to get it down into all of the details that I'm gonna want the white wax to highlight. I'm not going to paint the bottom, and I'm only going to paint maybe about 1.5 inches down into the inside, because I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to use this. I'm going to definitely be staging it up for indoors, and I'll give you an idea when we get there about different things that you can do with it. But if I knew that it was just going to be a decor piece, then I could certainly paint it inside as well. But just in case I end up wanting to plant a plant in it, I like to leave the inside unpainted so that it's still porous, the bottom is porous, so that it can deal with any overwatering issues that may arise. So this stage, dead easy. You are just simply painting the pot. Now that our paint has had a chance to dry, it is time to apply the white wax. Nothing difficult about this. I usually take just a chip brush for something like this because, again, I'm going to want to get it down into all of the cracks. I do not sand the paint off either because I want to have a bit of rough edging to be able to catch a lot more of the white wax in there. I want some textured look, so I'm going to leave the texture on. So it's just as simple as getting the white wax onto your brush and wiping it down in. Now you're going to want to go in sections on this. I have a cloth off to the side that I'm going to be wiping back some of the white wax, just in the spots where I want it a little less heavy before it has a chance to be able to dry. And I will want to let this dry overnight before I buff it, but I definitely don't want to leave it overnight before I pull any of it back, because then it will be dried hard and there's no way I'd be getting that off. So what I'm looking at is wanting to get that wax down into a lot of those low areas, especially around these letters, because that's going to help kind of highlight the letters more than anything else. And when it comes time to wipe off a little bit, then I'm going to be wiping off in the high areas. So I'll bring back some of that color and I'll get more of a contrast happening. So let me just get the last of these flowers and this last leaf, and then I'll show you what some of that wiping back is going to look like. Now, if you wipe back a little bit too much, apply a little bit more wax again. It's kind of not a do or die thing. You get a lot of flexibility with this. I'm going to want to leave a lot of the white wax on the pot, but I'm going to want to wipe back. So you can see already how it starts to highlight just our word blooms there. And the white wax on the pot itself really softens that color, so it's not as bright or as bold. It looks a little bit more textured. So you can see that we can see our letters. Oh, I really love how these letters turned out, you guys. This again is the Harper mold, and I have more on order. I sold out actually, so I have more on order of this and of the Victoria letter mold. Both are lovely, but they're coming back in stock. So if you go to order some at queenbeecreationshome.com and they're not there, know that they're going to be there shortly. So you can always send me an email message for me to be able to email you once they come in, so you get a jump start on everything else. They're, again, super popular because they're just such a practical mold. You're going to be able to use them in so many projects, in signs, big ones, small ones, being able to get a lot of distinction and differentiation. So it's going to be, if this is the kind of crafting that you do, you're going to get a lot of use out of those molds. Just even little place cards and things, really. Just getting the rim there. And I'm going to leave a lot of that wax on the body of it. I like that kind of, let me see if I can give it to you. I like that smoked kind of, the wax drifting sort of hazy look of it, rather than rubbing it in. So I'm going to leave that to dry. You can see how quick that was, but look how cute that looks. It's backward for you. Sorry. But we're gonna let that dry overnight and then come back and buff it, and then it's done. So it really is a very quick little project. And think of this doing a series where you can have small pots and bigger pots. You can have a variety of colors. You could coordinate them. You could use this for getting some of the medium-sized pots and having them for desks. So you've got your pens in one, you've got all kinds of different paraphernalia and different labels. Super, 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 super cute. I think that's enough supers.